The Handmaid's Tale takes place in a dystopian future following a second American Civil War. Fertility rates have collapsed worldwide, and the new totalitarian and theonomic government of Gilead in the former United States brutally subjugates women. Women are not allowed to own property, have careers, handle money, or learn to read. June, a woman on the run with her husband Luke and their young daughter Hannah, is captured by Gilead and sent to Boston to be enslaved as a handmaid, the term used to describe fertile women which the Gilead elite forcefully impregnate in order to have children to raise with their wives. The handmaids are trained and kept in line by the cruel Aunt Lydia. When a new handmaid named Janine disrespects Aunt Lydia, she has her eye removed. June is also surprised to find her old friend Moira has also been enslaved as a handmaid. The two hatch an escape plan together, but only Moira makes it out of Gilead. Sometime later, June becomes the handmaid for Gilead commander Fred Waterford and his wife Serena. When Fred can't get June pregnant, he is presumed to be infertile. Serena then suggests that June enter into a romantic relationship with the Waterford's kindly driver Nick, in the hopes of him impregnating her. June is resistant at first, but eventually she and Nick develop actual feelings for each other. June also meets a handmaid named Emily, who was part of a secret resistance group known as Mayday that sought to take down Gilead. She also warns June that the Waterford house contained an eye, a spy for the Republic of Gilead. When her crimes against Gilead are discovered, Emily is forced into genital mutilation surgery and banished to a work camp known as the Colonies. June eventually discovers that Nick is a spy for the eyes, but he explains he only joined to ensure his boss, Commander Waterford, committed no unlawful abuse against his servants or handmaids. When Mexican trade delegates arrive to evaluate Gilead's methods, June secretly asks the Mexican ambassador to help save her. The ambassador declines, but their assistant does inform June that her husband Luke was still alive, and promises to deliver him a message on June's behalf. That message eventually gets to Luke as he is living safely in Canada, with a fellow refugee named Aaron. He is overcome with emotions upon learning that his wife is alive, and June's message for him is to find and save their daughter Hannah. On a night out with Commander Waterford to a brothel, June discovers that Moira had been recaptured and was now forced to work as a Jezebel. Moira has lost all hope of freedom, but June encourages her with the news that Luke had found safety in Canada. Inspired by June's words, Moira kills one of her clients and steals his car, escaping to Canada to reunite with Luke. June then discovers that she is pregnant. Serena, angry upon learning that her husband had visited the brothel, tells Fred that Nick was the child's actual father. Serena then takes June to her captured daughter Hannah, threatening Hannah's life if June did anything to endanger the life of her new baby. When Janine gives birth to Commander Putnam's child, she attempts to take the child for herself and publicly accuses Putnam of promising to leave his wife for her. June helps defuse the situation, saving the baby and leading to Janine being taken into custody. Aunt Lydia then orders all of the handmaids to stone Janine, but they all refuse. For their disobedience, Aunt Lydia promises severe consequences. As the season comes to a close, guards come to take June to her punishment, although Nick promises her safety and asks for her to trust him. I just want to cut in real quick and tell you about this video's sponsor, Extra Wallets. Extra creates simple yet good-looking wallets that truly revolutionize the way you'll carry your money. I've been using my Extra wallet for a few months now, and not only do I really love this thing, but my wife loves it so much that she stole one for herself. So I had to go out and buy another one. I genuinely love this thing. It's sleek, modern, and minimalist, and it's so much thinner than a traditional wallet. You can fit 6 of your cards in the top, and they're all accessible with the click of a button. So that's pretty awesome. You can secure more cards or cash in the band here, and this thing is RFID protected, so you don't have to worry about thieves stealing your credit card information. And if you want a more traditional looking wallet, Extra's got that too. Same great look and features, but with that added leather and fold for more card carrying possibilities. Extra also helps to ensure that you'll never lose your wallet again with their cool tracker cards. You stick it in your wallet, you connect it to an app, and if you misplace your wallet, you just click the button on the app and your wallet will ring. And if you're an Apple user, Extra also offers wallets with built-in pockets for Apple AirTags, so you can keep track of your wallet in the Find My app on your iPhone or Mac. So visit shop.extra.com/recapandchill for 20% off your first order. That's shop.extra.com/recap&chill. These wallets are genuinely incredible and they make the perfect gift. Link is in the description. Now let's get back to the recap. In Season 2 of Handmaid's Tale, Nick helps June escape her captors and places her in the care of a man named Omar, who would take her to a plane headed for Canada. Unfortunately, the plane is intercepted, Omar is killed, and June is recaptured and sent back to live with the Waterfords. To make matters even more hopeless, June learns that Mayday has stopped helping handmaids due to the increased danger. When Nick shows concern for June's depression, the Waterfords arrange for him to marry a teenage girl, Eden, in the hopes of diverting his attention from June. Although Nick professes his continued love for June in secret, he is forced into an intimate relationship with his new wife so as not to arouse any suspicions. When Eden begins an affair with a young guardian named Isaac, Nick is unbothered by it. This makes Eden realize her husband's true feelings for June. When Eden and Isaac are discovered to be having an affair, they are executed by Gilead. Tired of the abuse and oppression, one of the handmaids detonates a suicide bomb at a large gathering, killing many handmaids and commanders and seriously injuring Fred Waterford. Serena steps up to lead her household while her husband recovers. To replace the dead handmaids, Gilead is forced to bring in banished women from the colonies to fill their roles. And so Emily and Janine return from their banishment, having been forced to work in a toxic waste site. Nick and the Waterfords then travel to Canada on a diplomatic mission. While in Canada, Serena is approached by a man named Mark, who was a part of the last remnants of the US government. He offers to help Serena escape the oppression of Gilead if she agrees to publicly denounce the regime, but Serena refuses. Meanwhile, Nick finds Luke and tells him that June was pregnant, then gives him letters written by various handmaids detailing their abuse. When Luke shares the letters publicly, the Canadian government decides to end their peace talks with Gilead. Upon the Waterfords' return to Gilead, June asks Fred if she can be moved closer to her daughter Hannah after giving birth. When Fred refuses, June confirms to him that her unborn child's father is actually Nick. Infuriated, Fred assaults June as Serena holds her down. Following the assault, Fred arranges for Nick to take June to a secret meeting with Hannah. Out in a remote location, June and Hannah are briefly reunited. After Hannah is taken away, a group of guardians arrive to investigate why Nick and June were there. Nick instructs June to hide while the guardians take him captive. Left alone in the middle of nowhere, June is forced to give birth by herself. She names her new daughter Holly after her mother, and then fires a gun she had found in the hopes of drawing attention. June is rescued and allowed by the Waterfords to nurse the baby, which they rename Nicole. June is able to convince Serena to speak up about Gilead, allowing girls to read the Bible. When Serena brings this up publicly, she has her finger removed as punishment. Meanwhile, Emily is made the handmaid of Commander Lawrence, although he refuses to perform the ceremony with her to get her pregnant. When Aunt Lydia pays the handmaid a visit, Emily brutally stabs her in an attempted murder. Commander Waterford tries to convince June to have another baby with him, this time one that was actually his, and preferably a son. He offers to allow June to see Hannah more, but June refuses. When a fire breaks out across the street, the Waterford housekeeper Rita, a member of the rebellious Martha network, urges June to take Nicole and flee. Nick holds Fred at gunpoint to allow June to escape. When Serena catches June and Nicole escaping, she allows them to leave, wanting a better life for her would-be daughter. Eventually, June is led by the Marthas to an extraction point just as Commander Lawrence arrives with Emily. June and Emily are both confused by the commander's assistance, but don't have time to question his motives. As he leaves, a truck arrives to carry the women to safety. June gives Nicole to Emily, but instead of joining them to freedom, she turns back to Gilead, resolved to save her daughter Hannah. In Season 3 of The Handmaid's Tale, Emily arrives in Canada and delivers Nicole safely into the care of Luke and Moira. Finally free, Emily is able to reunite with her wife Sylvia and son Oliver. Back in Gilead, Fred Waterford pins June's escape attempt and Nicole's kidnapping on Emily. June is reassigned to serve as a handmaid to Commander Lawrence, who kindly refuses to partake in the conception ceremony as he was secretly involved in the Mayday rebel group. In Lawrence's care, June is able to work with the Martha's network to devise a plan to rescue children from Gilead and send them to safety and freedom in Canada. Unfortunately, when June tries to see her own daughter Hannah, she is caught and punished, and Hannah's family is relocated to an unknown destination. Meanwhile, tensions mount between Gilead and Canada, as it becomes public knowledge that Luke was harboring the kidnapped Nicole. June arranges for a meeting between Luke and Serena so that Serena can spend time with her would-be baby. In Canada, Mark joins the meeting and once again offers Serena a chance to escape the oppression of Gilead, and gives her a satellite phone to secretly communicate with him. Serena gives Luke a message from June explaining that she had intended to name Nicole Holly and that the baby's father was Nick. Following this, June joins the Waterfords and Aunt Lydia on a trip to Washington, D.C., where they meet with the High Commander George Winslow. Even Aunt Lydia is horrified at the extreme rules imposed in Washington, including the handmaid's lips being pierced shut and forced to wear muzzles. The Waterfords and High Commander Winslow meet with Swiss diplomats hoping to strike a peace deal between Gilead and Canada, which would include extraditing Nicole back home. High Commander Winslow accompanies the Waterfords back to Boston, where he plans on implementing the same mouth piercings and muzzles used on handmaids in Washington. Meanwhile, Fred begins growing suspicious of Commander Lawrence and his refusal to perform the customary ceremony. Fred sends Winslow, Serena, and Aunt Lydia to watch Lawrence perform the ceremony on June, but June gives her consent to Lawrence in order to protect him and his household from Fred's wrath. Following the ceremony, June convinces Lawrence to join her plan in smuggling Gilead children into Canada. While at Jezebel's to meet with a potential accomplice, June runs into Winslow, who attempts to assault her. June is forced to attack Winslow in self-defense, ultimately killing him. The Marthas help June escape and dispose of Winslow's body. As her plan to save the Gilead children moves closer toward success, June begins to worry about Lawrence's erratic wife Eleanor and the potential danger she poses. When Eleanor overdoses on drugs, June chooses not to save her and in turn lets her die. Meanwhile, the Waterfords arrange to meet with Mark in the hopes of securing Nicole's return, but Mark leads them into a trap in Canada, where Fred is arrested for war crimes. Serena is allowed to spend time with Nicole, but when Fred realizes that Serena had been involved in Mark's plan, he exposes Serena's own crimes committed in the name of Gilead, ensuring she was arrested as well. In Gilead, June enacts her plan to smuggle the children into Canada. As she and a group of Marthas distract the Guardians, June's Martha friend Rita manages to smuggle the children onto an airplane departing for Canada. During the struggle with the Guardians, June is shot. When the plane lands in Canada, the children are welcomed by Luke, Moira, and Emily. Rita informs them that June was responsible for the plan to get the children to safety. Back in Gilead, as June bleeds out from her gunshot wound, she is found by Janine and the other handmaids who carry her to safety. In season 4 of The Handmaid's Tale, June is nursed back to health by her fellow handmaids at a Mayday safe house. The home belonged to Commander Keyes, whose new teenage wife Esther is drugging him to ensure he never discovers her involvement with the Mayday Rebellion group. As June recovers and feels emboldened by the growing resistance, she decides that now was the time to fight for the liberation of the Handmaids and Jezebels. Unfortunately, June is discovered and captured by Gilead guards led by Nick, who was now a commander. Nick was still secretly working with the resistance and had even secured Lawrence's release after he was discovered to be a part of June's plan to smuggle Gilead children into Canada. June is tortured by Gilead to reveal the location of the Handmaid's safe house, but June refuses until Lawrence warns her that Hannah could be in danger. After betraying the other handmaids, Esther is captured and made a handmaid herself, while June and many of her friends are sent to work in the colonies. On the way, the handmaids stage an escape, but only June and Janine successfully get away and flee to Chicago. Back in Boston, Aunt Lydia recovers from her wounds inflicted by Emily's attack and wants to resume her position over the handmaids, but she discovers that she's been replaced by Aunt Ruth. Lydia then goes to blackmail Lawrence, revealing that she was aware of his involvement in High Commander Winslow's murder and of the smuggling of Gilead children into Canada. Lawrence agrees to restore Aunt Lydia to her position of power, and upon realizing she had just as much intel on the other Gilead commanders, offers an alliance with her to save the country. During a council meeting, Lawrence proposes a ceasefire of all attacks in Chicago in order to allow aid workers to help the injured, which would in turn make Gilead look good to potential foreign allies. The council agrees, but not before ordering Nick to coordinate a bombing strike in Chicago before the ceasefire went into effect. Nick is hesitant about the bombing as he had received word of 2 handmaids being spotted in Chicago and feared for June's safety. Meanwhile, June and Janine join a group of American resistance soldiers in Chicago right as Gilead decides to drop aerial bombs on the city. Janine is recaptured and taken back to Boston, but June is miraculously found amongst the rubble by her old friend Moira. Although June doesn't want to leave without her daughter, Moira convinces her to join the relief workers on their journey back to Canada. Moira's team smuggled June across the border, leading to June finally being reunited with her husband Luke. Right away, the husband and wife begin their search for Hannah. On Luke's suggestion, June arranges for a meeting with Nick, bringing along their daughter Nicole for him to meet. Nick gives June information on Hannah, who has now been moved to Colorado. Also in Canada are the Waterfords, who are currently imprisoned and awaiting trial for their various war crimes. Mark informs Serena that she is pregnant with a son. Serena tries to make amends with the newly freed June, but June refuses to accept her apology. June testifies against the Waterfords, but feels betrayed when she discovers that Mark was considering dismissing the charges against Fred in exchange for him revealing secrets of Gilead's inner workings. Fred would be allowed to flee to Geneva to live in peace. June convinces Mark to have a meeting with Lawrence, who proposes trading Fred for 22 captured resistance women from Gilead. As Fred says goodbye to Serena and prepares to leave for Geneva, he is instead arrested by Mark and traded to Lawrence and Nick. The 22 women are saved, and Nick brings Fred to No Man's Land, where June, Emily, and the other former handmaids are waiting. The women give chase to Fred before savagely beating him to death. Luke is shocked when June returns home covered in blood, as is Serena when she is sent a letter containing Fred's wedding ring and ring finger.